so much for tuning into the creative process. This is a vision of mine. I am Angie Beasley. I am your host for today. This was a vision of mine. I tell the story every time I go live or go live with the creative process. So it was birthed during the pandemic. Inside all day. I'm inside all day, and we all are affected by it, and we all have time to reflect on life and everything. And I just had time to really realize that people were leaving this earth left and right, and a lot of them had a lot of purpose to their lives. And I feel as if I didn't want to be one of those people who left this earth without fully birthing everything that I have inside of me, all the gifts, all the talents. So that's how the creative process was birthed. And it is just simply a series of conversations with dope creatives like my guest on today, Darren Walker. He is a man of many different colors on his coat, but he is amazing in his own right. I do want to brag on him, but I'm not gonna brag on him too much because I want him to just have all the time to talk about his different endeavors. And I know you're gonna be encouraged on today. So I have Darren Walker, the CEO of Bean Network, and many other things that he's involved in. So let's get right into it. How are you today, Darren?
I am awesome. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be a part of the creative process.
Yay! Thank you for agreeing to come on. I mean, I just think you're such an amazing person. I know you're busy. I know you're busy running companies. You said you're raising kids. He's funny, y'all, too. I'm thinking about that text message he sent. But he's a busy man, and for him to just carve out a little time out for me, I really appreciate it. So we're gonna get right on into this. Darren. So for every episode, I love to ask my creatives because I believe that creativity is a spectrum. I think about creativity as a big rainbow, and there's so many different colors, and there's not just one type of creative. There's not just one shade of a creative, right? So I feel like every creative has their own spin on what creativity means. So I want to start off with that question. How do you define creativity or being a creative?
That's a great question. I would say that for me, creativity is when a person can take something, using their imagination, can take something that is ordinary and make it special. And I would even add to that. I would say that a creative person or using their creativity is when their imagination is sort of linked with skill to take something that is ordinary and make it special. I'll give you an example, actually. I was in New Iberia, Louisiana once, and there was my brother-in-law's mom. She made me some pork and beans with rice and with sausage, right? And on the surface, it sounds sort of basic, but it actually was super amazing. I'm like, how can somebody make pork and beans taste this good? But the reality is that she's been cooking for a long time and, has a very creative imagination. And so she put the right spices and everything in there to give it that flavor. And the reality is also that I would not be able to duplicate that. It's like she can give me the recipe, but it's not going to taste the same. So to me, that's kind of how I look at creativity is really taking something ordinary and making it special.
I love that. And you know what? You have done that in your life. I've watched you grow. The secret is he's my cousin, guys. I don't want to flex that, but he's my cousin. And I've watched him just transform his life into something amazing.
Wow.
And he's going to talk about that more. But thank you so much.
Well, that means a lot, too. And I appreciate you saying that.
Of course, you are definitely an inspiration of mine. You're so wise and you're so caring and you're so gifted. You know what I'm saying? And I'll brag on you more in a bit. But thank you for that definition of creativity. Now, my next question, well, really a statement. I want you to talk about your different creative endeavors. Y'all, I told you he is a man of many hats. He wears many, many hats, juggles many different balls. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, he's been on national television. Y'all looking at Superstar right now. He's he is a poetry writer. He remodels homes, and oh my God, you all will see a slide soon of some of the work he's done. He also owns a company called Zoe's Queso. It's delicious. You have to go and get it. It's available. I'll put that slide up where you can go and get Zoe's. And then Bean Network, the social network. I just remember, I'm not going to spoil it. I'll talk about that next. So you talk about your different endeavors for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So my principal business is real estate, and so my wife and I have built a real estate portfolio in the New Orleans area. We started after Hurricane Katrina, and sort of one by one, we built up that portfolio. So real estate is kind of our foundational business, and because we were fortunate to do well in real estate, it then was sort of a springboard to invest into other companies and other things that we were passionate about. And so so you sort of have real estate as the foundation, and then the other businesses that we're involved in are Zoe's Queso. It's an all natural, amazing, delicious queso cheese that is available. That's available in Whole Foods, Rouse's, and many other associated grocery stores throughout Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi. And we're looking to expand into Texas. And then you have Bean, which is the social network that is essentially a movement for economic advancement for the African diaspora. And so those are sort of the three wheelhouses that we're involved in. And real estate, I feel like will always kind of be my greatest passion because it made everything else possible, and so, yeah, that's kind of what we have going on. I guess I can tell a real estate story.
Go ahead. Go.
Yeah. I like to, so real estate, the thing that was really cool, so when I flipped my first property, I had sort of hit rock bottom. And, with Lucy and I, our journey, I've been married for 13 years. I got married when I was very young. I was 21 years old. And you have these grand ambitions of what your life is going to be like and all the things that you want to do. And then life just backsmacks you, right? And so that's kind of what happened. I got bapped right in the mouth pretty much. And
wow.
Yeah, just whop. And it seemed like I would take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and just could not get a break. In a lot of ways, seemed that way. And so I ended up, getting positioned, working with an initial investor to flip my first property. And so, long story short, it came on the back of I was at my bottom. I was at the very lowest. I was living with my in-laws. So I had moved out of my house. I was living with my in-laws. While we were moving to their house, I had a U-Haul truck. It clipped a tree in front of my house, put a big hole on the top of the U-Haul. Didn't have no money for the U-Haul in the first place. Now I got to pay for the dent that's on top of the U-Haul. I mean, it was everything that could go wrong. It went wrong. But I had this opportunity to get involved in real estate because someone believed in me and they partnered with me to invest in this first deal. And so I flipped that house. And I'll never forget when we went to the closing table, the closing attorney, he slid over the check to me. It was a $147,000 check. And he said, what is it that you do? And that was the first time someone of his caliber actually expressed such interest in little old Darren. And I kind of cleared my throat a little bit, put my chest back, and I'm like, I'm an investor, and it felt so good. And what was cool about it was that he didn't ask what my GPA was. He didn't ask, what school that I went to. He only cared about how was I able to deliver those results. And so that's kind of my initial story of, part of the initial story of getting into real estate. And yeah, it's been a great journey. We've really enjoyed it.
Amazing. And that segues into just talk about slightly about being on national TV.
That was super cool. So it's funny because I told Lucy a few years before we were on television, I was like, I'm telling you, babe, we're going to have our own TV show.
You
Oh, you're crazy.
Into existence. That's one thing I know about you.
I believe in that. I really do believe in it, because it's like your words can just, I believe it can frame your world. And I was telling her that, and she was giving me a hard time and, saying that I was going crazy or whatever, right? Well, a few years go by, and we had some, we had remodeled a number of places by that time. And so someone shared a video of our remodel with someone who was a producer on the show out of Texas Flip and Move. But the actual executive producer of that show lives in Australia. So a guy out of Australia sees our video, loves what we're doing, and he gives us a call and basically says, we want you guys to be cast members of this show. We think y'all have what it takes. And initially I'm thinking that, like, because they left a voicemail, and I'm thinking it's a prank or one of my friends messing with me or something. And
I was laughing at you.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you get this voicemail, oh, hey, my name's such and such, and, we're thinking about whatever, putting you on our show. And I'm like, yeah, right. Like, this is, one of these scam calls. So I wasn't going to call him back. And Lucy's like, call him back. So I ended up calling him back, and lo and behold, this great opportunity. And so it was super cool. We did 17 episodes on DIY Network, and it was cool, like, being able to do what we love, getting paid to do what we love, and doing it on television, and people recognizing us and stuff. Like, it was, like, everywhere we went, it was kind of cool that, oh, you're the guys, you're the couple from Flip and Move, So it was a lot of fun and very, very rewarding, like, very surreal, to have people come up to you and talk to you because they were fans of the show,
Yes, that's amazing. Now, tell me a little bit about this poetry side. This is something I never knew about you. That you like?
It's funny that you say that, because I didn't know it about me, right? Like, the poetry started when I went to Morocco, and that trip was, I guess, it was 3 years ago. Okay. And so we spent, I guess, about 3 weeks in Morocco, in the northern western corner of Africa, and I was just so inspired by being in Africa. It transformed me. We spent time in the Sahara Desert. We spent time in what's called the Blue City, Chef Jawin. The whole city is painted blue. Marrakesh, Tangier. So all these places, and the culture was so rich, and it really just, it marked my life, in that I think that was probably one of the most transformative trips of my life. And so on my way back, we were literally flying over the Atlantic Ocean, I felt inspired to write this poem. And so I wrote 2 lines, and then I'm like, man, that's kind of good. And then I'm like, let me see if I can finish this. And so I wrote more, and I'm like, Lucy, what do you think about this? And so I would accredit it to traveling, just like unlocked something in my brain that I didn't know that I could do, or know that I was passionate about. And so it just I sort of nurtured it a little bit, probably not as much as I should, the writing part, but that's how I found out that I had some ability to write, was actually coming from that trip. And I definitely believe, without a shadow of a doubt, without the inspiration of that trip, I don't think I would have ever written anything.
Wow.
And what's cool, I'm sorry, and one thing that's cool about it, from that trip, I ended up writing a song.
What?
I wrote a song, and the song is going to be released later this month. It's called The Payout Is Due. And so it's super cool, really excited about it. Got a great artist that is on the track. And so I wrote the chorus, And that all was inspired from that trip 3 years ago.
Wow. So I'm looking forward. I know you guys are looking forward to it. I'll put the link or where you could get it somewhere below. I'm gonna include that too. That's amazing. I songwrite as well. And you guys
Nice.
do a little singing, a little one too. And I'm trying to dibble and dabble into the songwriting and get some things done too. So man, like I'm discovering things about you as well today. That's so
Yes.
cool. That's amazing. So then
Thanks.
that leads me into talking because I know you love traveling. I know you love traveling. Talk about being living in another country.
Yeah. Um, there's so much I can say about that one. So right now we are in Medellin, Colombia. So I live in South America, and I look at photos of when I first moved here, like a year ago. So I've been here for 1 year. This month makes a year, and I don't even, in some ways, not that I don't recognize the person I was a year ago, but I realize I'm a different person than that guy. Like, because being in a new country, especially with a new language and a new culture, when I first got here, we were so dependent on Lucy, on my wife. Like, everywhere Lucy went, hey, what they said, what they talking about, what's going on? Like, we didn't know anything. And to just see the evolution within myself, my daughters, the girls, it's been really beautiful, for us. And the growth, the personal growth, personal development, because a lot of times you go to a new place and you have all of these fears, you have all of these phobias of what people think and what they may do and all of these things. And you realize the beauty of travel is that people are, for the most part, the same. Like, they want the same things. Like, they want a good life for their kids. They want to be happy. They want enough money to pay their bills. Like, there's this commonality that we have all over the world. And so the expansion from living in another country has it's been phenomenal. It sort of came about because I think Lucy and I, 6 years ago or 7 years ago, we started talking about the idea of living in another country. And at that time, we had just come back from China. And our life at that time was sort of post and pre-China. Like, China was this huge milestone in our life. And so we realized that China, the experience of being there, it had marked us, it had changed us. And so we thought, what if we, do an extended stay in a country, or man, what would it be like to live somewhere else? And so that's when the idea sort of first began. And then over time, we ended up, getting into the real estate business and other businesses that we had going on. And after the television show, just to kind of fast forward, we were looking for the next challenge. We had built sort of our dream home, and it was fun, and that was cool, and we enjoyed it. But then I think the next thing was like, okay, what's the next frontier? Yeah. And I think that next frontier was, I wanted my girls to be bilingual, just in terms of living in a time where you have global competition. I thought it was important that they have a second language that could just further connect them and expand their horizons. And so, so we talked about it for a little bit. And one day I walked out of the room. I'm like, Lou, I think we're moving. And she's like, don't mess with me. Don't mess with me if you're not serious. I'm like, I'm serious. I think we're getting out of here. And so we just started talking about it. And a few months later, we were gone.
And that's okay. So one of the biggest points I got from what you just said was we are ever evolving. You said that
Yep.
You are no longer the man that you were when you first moved there. And I think that's beautiful because we are to evolve and we are to be lifelong learners and constantly expand and shed our old selves and become new. And I feel like if you're not evolving, what are you doing? Right?
Yeah, you're dying.
Are you learning? Are you expanding? It's important to evolve. And I just love that you all have always been risk takers and daring. I remember because I know I used to do babysitting gigs for you, and I would gain so much wisdom. And I remember I was scared to take the leap to do something. and you said something to the effect of, it was like I couldn't figure out how to do something. And you were like, well, I don't know what you're doing. If you can't figure out how to do that, that's simple. And you made me really reflect and be like, well, dang, that is pretty simple. Why am I making such a big deal out of this this molehill when I want this molehill, right? So
Right.
you just helped me to like start thinking on a bigger level. So maybe
Yeah.
you're a part of this my process. So thank you for
Hey,
you.
absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely.
But
But
now
I like what you said, Ange, in terms of um, if you're not growing, then what are you doing? And a lot of times, if you're not growing, not that there aren't seasons of rest, because that is a part of the growth process, right? Like you have to push yourself to capacity, and then there's this sort of ebb and flow where you also rest, and then you push again, kind of a thing. But but if there is just a life of no resistance, no challenge, no expansion, or I believe you're actually atrophying. And, if you're not sort of growing, you're kind of dying in a way. And so I think it's imperative to look for sort of the next frontier, but yet always having a sense of I like the way my brother, says it. My brother Danny says, to be content, but not to be complacent. So, I'm content in areas of my life, but I'm not complacent. I am still looking for opportunities to improve. I'm looking for opportunities to expand, to grow, which is why, reading is so imperative, right? Like you need to be able to access other people's knowledge quickly and inexpensively.
yeah,
And, that's where I think where reading is probably one of the best ways to make sure that you're continuing to grow. And that's one of the ways that I sort of nurture, myself, my creative process is by listening to others, because I do like to share, I do like to pour out, but it's nice also to have someone pour back into you and to constantly keep you on the cutting edge.
absolutely. And I love what you said. Reading is a key part of the creative process into evolving and growing. Because I heard someone say, I'm going to try to word it eloquently. They said, you have access to your mentors, to like big people, like just think of your favorite mentor, whoever it is. If you
Sure.
have a book, go and get that book and read. Like
That's
Darren
right.
said, you can access their way of their creative process or their process to how they became great by reading. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean that's probably been one of the biggest things in my life. I mean, I did start reading at a very early age, like I guess probably 12 or 13, the John Maxwell's, Running with the Giant. Yeah, I started really young. Um, I was reading Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, um,
Yes.
How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. And so those are the books that kind of early on influenced me. Definitely the Bible. Went on to read the Bible, a couple of times in my teenage years. So I would say that definitely laid just a rich foundation, just to go out and to just build on that knowledge.
And it seems like you always had a sense of purpose.
Ange, you said a lot just there because that is true. I think that there was, since an early age, a sense of certainty about my life. Sometimes, it maybe caused me to take myself too seriously, especially when I was young. I was very, very zealous and very ambitious, and so yeah. To your point, there was definitely a sense of purpose. I was going somewhere, and at least I thought I was going somewhere, and and so yeah, I was consumed with wanting to maximize my potential, sort of die empty, that whole
Yeah.
that whole thing.
Oh, you just said my favorite saying. I always say, live full and die empty.
That's it.
And that's
Because I mean, to that phrase, it's like that's one of the things that actually gets me going. And it may seem morbid to some people, but it's really not. It's a reality, and we're all going to die. And so that sometimes, like when I'm just stuck or stagnant or I don't want to do anything, I'm just like, damn, dude, like you're gonna die one day. Like you're not here forever. Like the Bible says life is but a vapor. You know, I mean, it's just like boom, then you're gone. And so, in other words, sometimes I have to go that deep to really get me moving, because I think about my death day. I think about my funeral. Who's going to be there? Anybody, are they going to be paying attention while the eulogy going on? You know what I'm saying? Are they going to be talking about lunch? What's for lunch? Like Darren getting eulogized. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think about these things in terms of, you know, who's important to me, how I spend my time. You know, it's critical, because to maximize your potential, you know, obviously, you know, you have to make the most of your time. You have to get out there and make the most of things, because our days are numbered. You know,
Oh, absolutely. You know what? You're making me think about, I don't know if you've seen it already, on Disney Plus. I don't have an endorsement, but if y'all want to endorse me, go ahead. But on Disney Plus, Hamilton, the screenplay Hamilton. Have you seen it yet?
I saw Hamilton, not to flex, a little light flex, but
What?
I saw Hamilton in New York when it was on Broadway for my birthday.
What?
Yeah. Lucy did a surprise trip, and we saw Hamilton in New York a couple years ago.
No, go ahead, flex, because one day I'm gonna be paying for the trip for all of us to go.
Yeah, that's it.
But like, you sound like, I just love that screenplay, because they were saying, how could you write like you're running out of time? And he kept saying, I am not throwing away my shot. Like, he was purpose minded, and just like you said, he lived full and he died empty. Like,
he sure did.
He laid it all out, you know. So
yes, he did.
I love that.
Yeah. No, that show was so inspiring. I mean, it absolutely was so inspiring. I mean, like you said, I'm not throwing away my shot
At all.
And you have to, and I think to not live, that's the only way to live, right? You know, now the thing is that a lot of creatives get it mixed up in terms of that living like that comes with a big responsibility.
Ooh.
Because you have to own the good and the bad. You have to own the success and the failure, you know? And so a lot of times people sell themselves short because they're afraid to fail. And so not realizing that in order to be successful, you have to fail forward. You have to get your fail count up. And of course, you're not intentionally failing, but it is just the nature of things, you know. You have to learn to do things well. And so it's like when we first started with our first house, I mean, we made mistakes on that house then that we don't make today. When we first started trading in the stock market, we made mistakes then that we don't make today. So, but oftentimes when people meet resistance, then they quit and then they start something new. And as a result, they're not realizing that they have to start all over again in terms of getting their fail count. And so they move to so many different things that before you know it, they've blown through their 20s or 30s, looking into their 40s, and they're just starting, where the reality is going into your, you know, maybe your 30s or even late 20s or whatever, you could already be approaching that 5,000 hours, 7,500 hours, 10,000 hours, which they believe 10,000 is what it takes to be an expert.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's why in the earlier years, like, and take it with a grain of salt. I'm always open to new opportunities, always looking to keep it moving, but there should be a thread. There should be a thread to a person's life in terms of the industry that they're in, the focus that they have, because otherwise, if you just keep hitting the reset button, you're not even giving yourself any time to catch a break. And by catch a break, I mean just like you can create breaks by getting better. And then you also get breaks because life, sometimes you're just going to get that opening because you just kept putting in the work. And then before you know it, opportunity presents itself, you know. But it's when preparation and opportunity meet, you know, is when you have success. So, but a lot of times people aren't prepared because as soon as it gets tough, you know, they change and try something new.
I had that image as you said that there's a image where there, you can see a guy with this pick or this axe. I don't know what to call it, but it's like a miner's pick. And
Correct.
a few feet away, there's a
Hmm.
big diamond,
Yep.
and he's been chunking at it. And
Yep.
right when he gets to the place where he's about to break through and get to that place or that goal or that vision or that dream that he wanted to manifest, he turns around. And that's the vision that I just got from what you said. So
Yeah.
it's important, y'all. I know you all are receiving, I mean, some major nuggets, and this is for free. Okay, you're receiving life changing, life transforming nuggets of wisdom right now. So thank you so much for sharing
Absolutely.
all of that. Now I want to talk about being. I want to move on to being. I want you to explain what is being. Um, I remember now before you start. I remember
Yep.
in you talking about the inception of this idea. I remember seeing this black chalk wall in your house, and
Yep.
you drew on the wall, and you had all of your ideas for being. And I said, "What's being? What is that?" And you
Yeah.
started going into it, and you were so passionate and so driven and just so excited about it, and just to see from that point to now manifestation, and now you have people on your network and
Yeah.
it's buzzing and people are talking about it, and I want you to sign up. You're watching, check it out. He's about to talk about what is being. What is it?
Absolutely. So Bean is a social network movement, right, that is centered on bringing economic empowerment and economic advancement to the Black community and Black communities all over the world. So you think of sort of an IG meets LinkedIn, then with the extra spice of a complete focus on economic advancement. And Bean was really birthed out of necessity in terms of, my background prior to getting into real estate was in insurance and financial services. And so I ended up getting a Series 6 license, 63, property and casualty, life and health licenses. And I saw this great disparity when it came to working with people in my community compared to when I worked with other races, other groups. For instance, I had my peers who worked with me at some of these brokerage firms and things like that. And oftentimes, they were rolling over, grandma's IRA or 401k, or their uncle's that was worth, 2 million, 500,000, 3 million, 10 million, what have you. And I found that I was oftentimes having to explain just the very basics of why people in our community needed life insurance. And so there just was an enormous gap. And so that really got my wheels turning. And so what I realized is that it was going to be difficult to compete with my peers. It's not that I couldn't sell the products. It's not that I wasn't knowledgeable about the products, but I didn't have a community. I did not have people that was prepared to receive and benefit from this information. And so I'm like, okay, well, where do I go? Where are the professionals? Where are the Black people that are, moving and shaking? And so I'm looking at the need for community. Now, this started all about 10 years ago, but at the time, I'm still early on in my process. So all I could think about at the time was NOLA Black pages. So I was trying to just connect people locally. We pulled it off, and we had a cool little run. But Instagram and Facebook were taking off at the time. And so I had a directory, but the social environment was calling for something that was dynamic. And so you fast forward, what I thought was a local, what I thought was a local issue, I realized was a national issue, because the more success I had, I started realizing, well, shoot, this ain't just in New Orleans, this is all over the country, that we're just having these large economic gaps. And so you just fast forward through my journey. I ended up launching Bean 5 years ago, put up 50,000 of my own money, worked on it for a year and a half with a small team. And only to kind of get off the runway and then say, man, we got to shut this thing down in terms of I'm underfunded in terms of how much capital, personal capital I can put into this. And I didn't have the right dev team in place. So I was frustrated because it was a great proof of concept,
Yes.
but I felt like I had let my community down. And I also felt like my community had let me down a little bit in terms of the support. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm good, man. Like every man for himself. I kind of fell into that thing. And, you know, and Lucy and I just succeeded more. We got television. Everything was going great. But I realized that if I did not do something that, because the more I traveled, again, I realized this was not local. It wasn't national. This thing was global, all over the world. You know, that people of African descent are facing these economic challenges. Yet in many cases, we have economic power. It's just not being realized. And so I did not like that we were just existing on these large social networks, which is digital real estate, yet we didn't have any ownership in them. So every post, every like, every comment, every message sent is digital real estate, and we are consuming it daily, and yet we don't own any of it. And so it became my burden essentially, where I'm saying, okay, how can I create a platform that makes it easy to facilitate wealth staying within our community and have the social component as well, so that when Essence Festival comes to New Orleans, no one's passing out flyers for, hey, these are Black-owned restaurants. You just pull out your phone and click a button, and it pulls up every business in a 5-mile radius. And if they have any coupons or offers, you can get them right there. And it also can track your economic impact, so that when you spend money within the community, now it's being rewarded. It's also keeping a nice ledger for you, so you know your social impact, and it creates a healthy competition, so that I can see, man, Angela spent $150 yesterday with another Black business. Man, I need to get on my game. So that we have a healthy competition, not I'm seeing Angela got red bottoms on and I got to get my wife some red bottoms, and none of us own red bottoms. Like, you know, we don't have any equity there. So it really, it became an idea of, we're on digital real estate. How can I position my community to own it? And also for other allies, people that, you know, of other races that wanted, that saw the need to help bridge that economic gap, which we have, you know, investors and users of every race and nationality that are backing the vision of Bean, which is saying, hey, listen, you know, we want to see Black economic advancement. We want to see the economic gap, that gap bridged. And we believe that Bean is the platform to do it.
Wow. I view you, I want to add another title, community leader. Community leader. Because this app is so timely for the times that we live in right now. And
Absolutely.
I just heard in my mind, I mean, you're a part of the revolution. You're helping to advance. Seriously, this app is amazing. If you're watching, please check out Bean. How can they register for Bean? How can they connect?
Absolutely. So you go to your Google Play Store or the Apple Store, your App Store, and you just search Bean Now. So that's BEAN, which is Black Economic Advancement Network. And so it's Bean Now. You search Bean Now, download the app, you follow me, I'll probably be your first follow. Unless Charlene beats me to it. Charlene has a reputation on the app for getting everybody, But Angela, I want to say something that, you know, there was a temptation that in our community where you become successful to a certain level and then you can forget sort of how you got there or the process in a way. And so what I wanted Beam to be was sort of provide digital infrastructure to connect us, to unite us, to make it easy to facilitate this sort of wealth transfer and connection within our community. And I think the last part is that I told my wife, you know, if I didn't do Bean, I felt like I would have definitely felt unfulfilled in my life. In terms of, I would have always felt like I never gave Bean the proper chance that it needed to thrive. And I felt like I wouldn't have done my part to provide something for our community to connect us and to uplift us, because we have many, many outlets for entertainment. We have many, many outlets for the social front. But after we laugh and after we have a good time, a lot of times we're going back to many broken conditions, especially economically. And so I believe that that's my part, is that this economic advancement, marriages, 50% of marriages that end in divorce many of them are because of financial problems. Economics, when poverty is reduced, crime is also reduced. It's just, it impacts everything in our life, our quality of life, quality of our education, quality of our healthcare. And so, I believe that Bean is that app that says we can create economic advancement for our people with our own power. We have a $1.3 trillion buying power in the United States. And then not only that, you also have, like I mentioned earlier, allies who want to see that gap bridged. And so many of them are also participating as well.
Oh my goodness. You all, I know you're, I'm just blown. I'm a bit speechless. I knew about Bean, but just to hear it out of the founder's mouth of how amazing this platform is, that leads me to the next thing. Who is Bean for? Who is Bean for?
Yeah, so Bean is for people of the African diaspora, right? So like Bean is created for Black economic advancement. But we also own Building Economic Advancement Network. And the whole thing with that is that I believe this is a starting point. I believe we're going to be successful. And so I believe that 10, 15, maybe 20 years from now, it won't necessarily just be Black Economic Advancement Network. I believe it'll evolve into maybe even a more holistic or inclusive vibe at that point, because we will actually have achieved our goal. And so, and maybe at that point, maybe we're helping other communities, around the world that need economic advancement. Say, hey, you know what? We were there 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And now, this is how we changed our community. Let's see how we can uplift you. So Bean is for the advancement of Black people all over the world and those allies who want to see that reality come to pass.
Absolutely. Such a forward thinker. Always thinking ahead. Always thinking of the next. Go ahead. So yeah, you all go and register for Bean. And also you can visit, tell them about the website and how to
Yes. So iambean.com. So you just go to iambean.com, and the links to the Android and the Google, the Android and the Apple store is there. Just click that button and download it. And it's so many cool things because it's a social network. So you have the fun, you have people posting that side, because that's our digital real estate. Absolutely. And if I'm going to post, I want to post on my own network. If I want to send you a message, you think about creating wealth. Every wealthy community, they own their own news outlets. They own their own means of communication. And so I think that it's imperative that we own that if I want to send you a message, I should not have to go through Facebook. I should not have to go through Instagram. I want to send you a message on Bean that is a Bean message. And I have, and I've done it, and we communicate, and I'm able to reach people all over the world. And so that's powerful because it puts us in charge. And we're not saying, well, Mark Zuckerberg, he's not hiring enough Black people and this, that, and the other. Because yeah, these companies may have a social responsibility, but at the end of the day, we have to take ownership for our destinies and realize that, hey, you know what? I am in charge of where I post and where I comment and where I share my life. And that information is valuable. And so I want to educate our community that your data is valuable and you should own it. And so I don't just post everywhere. My data is valuable. I post where I own it.
Absolutely. Come on. Y'all are getting nuggets from a CEO, a boss mind. Please, please, please take heed. If you want to be successful, If you want to expand and grow and evolve into a better you, listen to what this man is saying. So, man, Darren, thank you so much. I have a few more questions for you. We're gonna switch gears. I want to know, how do you cultivate your creativity?
I would say, and I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, in that the books that I read and the travel, not just learning from the cultures of where the places that I'm visiting, because you have that part, so that's part of cultivating it. But when I get into a new space, that feeds me and inspires me. So in terms of cultivating my creativity, there's just boundaries that I'm going to put, so to speak, around my life, in terms of the things that I see, the things that I watch, things that I listen to, because I want to have things that are going to nourish me and inspire me in a way. And so I found that travel does that for me. Every country that I visit, every city, just getting into new spaces really gets me going. So every now and then I'm just like, look, we got to get out of here. Like, I got to go somewhere. I just have to go somewhere new, so I can just be in a new environment. Because when that happens, I get ideas, and I feel refreshed.
Absolutely. I'm the same way. I'm gonna get on your level real soon. But I
Absolutely.
love travel. I love to travel. I love, just like you said, new space. It just opens your mind in ways that
Yeah,
you can imagine. I love that.
it
So
does.
my next question is, how do you find balance with all your endeavors, everything you have going on? We talked about how to manifest, and now once you manifest, how do you juggle all of that?
Yeah, that's really good. So I sort of subscribe to like an idea of leverage and efficiency. Like, those are my key words when it comes to managing everything that we have going on, so that my lifestyle, for instance, the fact that we live in another country, but we manage our businesses from afar.
Yeah.
We were able to put the things in place, especially in 2020, with technology the way that it is. I mean, like, I'm FaceTime. I mean, we're talking now thousands and thousands of miles away. I'm on another continent. So, in terms of balancing, there's a book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And it's an excellent book. And so I really sort of subscribe to that lifestyle, where there are seasons where I don't work 4 hours in a week. Sometimes I don't work 4 hours in a month. But there are also seasons where I'll work 16 hours a day. And I'll go in because I'm going in for my passion. So, I guess to answer your question in terms of how do I do it, I start I start from a place of, everything is about sustainability. So I don't get into things that aren't systems that can scale. So if it needs me and it needs too much of me, I probably, one, won't invest into it, or won't be involved in any way, shape, or form. So it's very strategic in that I'm not the type of person that just wants to work. Part of what we do here in Colombia is a 1-year gap year, which is like basically a 1-year vacation. And then we really liked it. And so now we're here, we're going to be here for a second year. And that is because our real estate is essentially on autopilot. Everything that we need that can ever come up is just a text message away. It's a phone call away. Zoe's queso. I'm more of a silent partner in that venture. And so I don't run the day-to-days. I give my ideas on marketing and things of that nature. But I'm more or less hands-off. And then with Bean, I'm very much hands-on. And so that's where I'm able to pour myself into it. But so there's just these seasons. So Bean, I'm in a season right now where it's a grind, but that's coming off of a season of a lot of relaxation.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, it's time to go in. And so I'll go in until I can't go in anymore. And then I'll take it easy.
So the title of that book again?
So the title of that book is called The 4-Hour Work Week. And it's just about automating your life. And so, I never start also with the premise of something can't be done. I more or less start with how can it be done, which is Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad sort of secret to success. Like he never looks at things and say, okay, I can't do this. The question is always, and has always been for me, how can this be done? How can we live in another country and run our businesses? Because you have a lot of great opportunities. You know, for instance, being here, the power of the U.S. dollar, so it goes further. There's just all sorts of really cool opportunities that you're able to take advantage of when you live in other countries and things like that. So that's how I sort of approach it. Is okay, how can this be possible? And I'm always, I guess, keeping a pulse on my wife, the kids. You know, I want them to be happy. I want them to be really happy. And so their happiness is more important than monetary gain or anything, actually. So that's always at the front of my mind. And I don't want our businesses to grow to the point where it hinders my family. My family is always most important. And so I always want to keep them at the front, you know.
Absolutely. Thank you
So
so
it's a
much.
tension, you know, it's a balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff today. I know you are learning so much. If you are busy like Darren, or hey, you're gonna manifest and become busy like Darren, take these tips. Good tips here. My next question is, if you, okay, this is gonna be fun. If you could create or invent any product, good, or anything else you could imagine,
Mm-hmm.
what would it be, and then why?
You know, and I feel like I'm gonna let you down a little bit on this one, but I think that, and it's only because I have so many things I'm working on right now. I don't know. I feel like I'm out. I'm gonna say I'm not out of ideas, but you talk about dying empty. Lucy asked me the other day, "Is like, is there anything that you want to be doing right now?" And I'm like, my plate is full. Like,
Yeah.
I'm all out there right now. Like in terms of, you know, Zoe's queso, in terms of Bean, in terms of the real estate front. Um, I do want to leverage Bean for more speaking opportunities, coaching sessions, inspiring, like getting involved with people to help them realize their dreams and goals.
Yeah.
Uh, so I would love to do that. But right now, because every time I've been asked that on a few interviews, and I'm like, man, I can't fit anything else on my plate right now. Just because Bean is that thing, because it comprises so many enterprises within one business. You know, it's a social network, but then it's also a monetary exchange place for shopping and commerce. So I think a lot of what I'm going to be doing is going to be expressed through Bean, whether that's Bean music, Bean movies, you know, Bean just all things Bean. I think a lot is going to come through that
Wow.
particular vehicle.
I love
Yeah.
it. For some reason, I keep wanting to say at the end of this interview is you can connect with him and he's gonna do private coaching, like, because I feel like you're a life coach as well. Like, it's in you. Every time I encounter you or have encountered you, you always have, first of all, you can tell you're a very passionate, caring individual, but you
I
always
appreciate that.
have something to pour out into someone. So I feel like it's coming. Once that plate becomes a little cleaner.
Yeah, hopefully so. I would love to. I'm excited about. We have some things that's in the works right now, and hopefully, you know, like you said, once the plate gets a little bit less or whatever, you know, I'll be able to put some more on the plate. You know.
Look, y'all, I know you want to connect with them. I know you were hoping it may happen one day. So just stay tuned for that. Go to Bean. You can connect with him there, and you can see
Absolutely.
when and if and when that opportunity opens. Hey,
Absolutely.
full of wisdom. You got all of this for free. Okay. So just stay connected. So this is the last part, and I'm so sad that it's coming to an end because I I feel like I could just go outside and retile the whole roof. I just feel so inspired. I might try to do a backflip. I don't know how to backflip. I might try. I want you to speak to the innovators, the inventors, the future CEOs, the leaders, the community leaders out there, the
Yeah.
people who are a part of the revolution, the world changers out there, like yourself. Speak to them right now. I want you to encourage them. I want you to help push them into purpose, that purpose that you've always felt since you were a child, since you were 12 and 13 years old. Just speak to them
Sure.
right now, whatever's on your heart.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I would say that, it's important that you believe in yourself. There comes a point in time that even if no one else believes in you, a lot of times I see people get caught up with that, and I understand the emotion, feeling like my mom doesn't believe in, my dad doesn't believe in, my uncle, cousin, relative, what have you, friend. But there comes a point in time where you have to really put on the blindfolders, and not look to the left or to the right, and go deep, go inward. Um, there's a scripture that talks about, and David encouraged himself in the Lord. Like, there comes a point where you're not going to blame anybody for where you're at in life. And you're going to start from that place, the law of the map, knowing where you are, and realizing that you believing in you initially is enough. And as you go along on that journey of, like we talked about in the interview, reading books, watching YouTube series, getting information that's going to build you up, that's going to, that's going to feed you, that's going to feed your strengths. Anything that you want to accomplish, you can. It doesn't matter if others don't believe, if others don't doubt, others doubt you. You can do it. You may fail. You may fail frequently, but embrace that process, because it's through failure. Within every failure lies a seed of success. And so you will come through that failure richer than you were before. A lot of my greatest successes now were birthed through failure. I'm talking about utter failure. It didn't look awesome. It was terrible. It was completely messed up. And I now look back and I'm so thankful for those failures, because it shaped my character. It molded my integrity. It taught me so many lessons that success will never teach. And so I would just say to you, know that it's possible. Know that your dream can become a reality. But it oftentimes, it has to turn into plans, and it has to have you having an insatiable, unquenchable, relentless spirit, a relentless desire to succeed no matter the cost. And when you have that type of attitude and you're willing to pay the price, it's one thing my dad always told me my whole life: son, no shortcuts, pay the price. And when you pay the price, you realize that there's not anything in life that's too good for you. You can be in any room, you can be in any place, and thrive there and belong there, because greatness lies within you. And so you just have to take the time to cultivate it, to excavate it, but never give up on yourself. Stay in the game, keep evolving, keep leading, keep growing, just stay in the process. Don't get on the sidelines and let life pass you by, because it's easy to do that, especially when you fail. I failed at businesses, and man, when things didn't go right, I felt like I just wanted to hide, just get under my bed and don't come out. But the reality is that you got to pick yourself up, and in Spanish they say poco a poco. That's how you learn Spanish, little by little. That's how you get there, and you just don't give up on yourself. Believe in yourself. I remember I was in a room where, with the exception of Lucy, no one in there thought I was anything, because I didn't have a college degree, because I didn't have, I didn't come from a prestigious family, last name, but I was in that room and I said, you know what? I'm not going to let these people's thoughts about me and the way they're treating me define who I am, and so you rise up and realize that you can absolutely be the thing that you desire to be if you just don't quit and you stay in the process of getting better and going for your goals and dreams.
Oh my
100%.
Darren, thank you so much for carving off time to have this conversation with me. Man, I just feel so enlightened. I feel so like I have more, even more tools to run forward and to become everything that I was sent here to be.
Yeah. And I want to say one last thing is that on the front that I was saying, I think it's important because we live in a social environment that even, especially creatives and dreamers, you only have a certain amount of bandwidth, just like the internet. If there's 100 people in your house that's online, the internet's gonna be really slow, right? So you only have so much capacity. And that's why I say to not spend time trying to get others to believe. It's gonna be hard enough getting yourself to believe. It's gonna be hard enough to change yourself.
Absolutely.
So to don't make sure your ideas, your dreams, the things that you have, you want to keep them in an oven in a way, like keep them in your oven until they're ready. A lot of times, as entrepreneurs, we open the door and check on them every 2 minutes. And when you do that, you're cooking something. I'm no chef, but I know that when you keep opening the door, it lets that cold air in and it throws off the development process, the cooking process. And so it extends the time. And so that's why I'm just saying it's so important to really dial in on you, the individual. Because at the end of the day, your thoughts about yourself and what you can do is going to be, that's what's really going to count,
Absolutely. And another thing I want to add on, I remember a long time ago, before I even started any of my creative endeavors or businesses or whatever, I remember I would announce every little thing to the public. And you saw it and you told me in a very loving but stern and serious way. You said, you gave me a little anecdote of how you used to do it, and then how people, it creates an expectation for them, and if you deliver, it kind of comes back to bite you. And that was one thing that stuck with me, and now I kind of move in silence because of you. I move in
That's really good.
with this. One day I said, I'm just going to launch my website. And on that Friday, I finished my website. I had been working on it for like 2 to 3 weeks, and I launched it without telling people. Or
that's awesome, man.
One day I made the flyer. I was talking to my friend. I said, are you going to be my guest? And I didn't know who was going to be my next guest. I said, I'm just going to figure this out as I go, and I'm just going to launch this thing and not sit on it. So you're a reason why I move in silence. So
wow.
I listen to you.
That's so good, Ange. I was just talking to someone in an interview recently about that same thing, because they've proven now that when we talk about our ideas, goals, and dreams and share them in certain ways, it releases endorphins in our brain as if we've already achieved the thing that we desire. Wow. So a lot of times it ends up being counterproductive, because it's like, I'm telling everybody, oh yeah, man, I'm gonna lose this weight. I'm gonna lose this weight. I'm gonna lose this weight. And my brain is already giving me the feeling that I've ran 3 miles and cut carbs. Wow. When the reality is I haven't run 3 miles and I haven't been, I've been indulging in carbs, because it does play a trick on your mind. So that's really cool that you said that, because that's a really huge point. It's huge.
Absolutely. Darren, I don't want to go, but thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for this interview. I think I'm going to watch this about 5 times, like I've watched and my notebook out, because so many nuggets were dropped today. Please, I'm going to, the slide is on the screen now. Please follow Darren.
That's right.
Go and sign up for Bean. and just stay connected and watch all of the great things that are going to manifest from this amazing, amazing man. Just thank you again so much for being on the show today. And
Yep. Thank you for having me.
of course, thank you for tuning in. And I know that you're excited about what happened today. Next week, I have Jared Green, also known as Jared the Dreamer. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be an amazing interview. And just thank you so much for watching the creative process. And I will see you next week. Bye.